risks and trends that emanated from states passing medical marijuana laws mainly comes out of the conflict that those state laws have with the federal law, the Controlled Substances Act of 1970, which clearly makes marijuana and cannabis illegal on a federal level, even though these states have decriminalized marijuana, have allowed businesses to start creating products to help patients potentially.
Retailers might be surprised to learn that they have products on their shelves that FDA considers unlawful. There's been a boom in the availability of edible products containing, for example, cannabidiol or CBD. So convenience stores, supermarkets may be selling these products and not realize that FDA's position is that those products are unlawful.
The country has passed a lot of new laws on both the recreational side and medicinal side of cannabis, and these new laws are really providing a lot of opportunities for businesses to be a part of that as licensed entities or be involved even in other ways. So now on the one hand we have all these new laws, and on the other hand we have all this opportunity, and that coupled together really does provide a tremendously great environment for mergers and acquisitions in the cannabis space to take place.
With this patchwork of state laws, it's really important for employers to be aware of the state of play in the location in which the employee works. So I characterize state laws in three different groups. One is those that just decriminalize the use of medical marijuana. The other is those that provide for non-discrimination protections. And then the final bucket are those laws that require employers to accommodate somebody's medical marijuana use. And so it's important to know where you operate and what rights the employee has in that jurisdiction.
Some of these laws have components that protect patients who qualify for medical marijuana, and those patients develop under state law certain rights. They're treated as protected individuals, and they are protected from discrimination for their use of medical marijuana as long as they're complying with state law. So that puts employers in an awkward position because on one hand they might have a compelling reason not to allow their employees to use medical marijuana, whether on the job or off the job. But on the other hand, we have these protected classes that are created by law, and employers are required to respect that.
In the last 2 years, we've really seen a sea change in the law in this area. Prior to 2 years ago, the state Supreme Courts that had considered the issue had really found in favor of an employer's right to drug test and to terminate or take adverse employment against somebody that tested positive for marijuana, no matter the circumstances. Recently, however, cases in states like Massachusetts, Connecticut, Delaware, Arizona, and others have found it in favor of the employee and have required, in some cases, employers to accommodate an employee's use of medical marijuana.
It really is, everything should be considered. In the M&A space, it's very important to get a sense of things that are happening, both big and small, because even those small things in the aggregate can really show people the types of trends that are taking place. I actually think most importantly, it's important to take a look at items that states are doing when they're really changing the regulatory framework in which businesses have been operating. And the reason for that is by changing that regulatory framework, you might give opportunities for businesses to think about potentially teaming up together in strategic partnerships or alliances, or even acquisitions and affiliations in order to tackle those opportunities together.
Recently, the federal government enacted the 2018 Farm Bill, which has changed the classification of hemp on a federal level. Hemp-based products are often used. They extract CBD. It's a particular compound commonly found in marijuana, but also in hemp, that's shown in some studies to have potential medical benefits to certain patients. So that's certainly a trend in the right direction as it enables this new form of substance to be used for medical treatment.
FDA also regulates dietary supplements, which are products such as vitamins and minerals and herbs that are intended to promote wellness. But there's a limit to what is allowed to be included as a dietary supplement. In particular, if an ingredient has already been approved as a drug, FDA says you cannot put it in a dietary supplement. So in the case of CBD, FDA has already approved a drug for epilepsy whose active ingredient is CBD. And so FDA has taken the position that CBD cannot be sold in the form of a dietary supplement.
The best approach is to be proactive, to identify the scenarios that can invoke potential legal consequences, and to develop policies, procedures that could possibly mitigate those risks so that the business is not a target for enforcement.
Manufacturers, distributors, and retailers of food and dietary supplement products should carefully evaluate new product offerings, in particular to see whether they might contain cannabidiol or other hemp-derived ingredients that FDA has said are problematic.
I encourage employers to take a look at their drug testing policy now to see whether or not it complies with the current state law in the locations in which they operate. And I also encourage employers to think about how that drug testing policy fits into their broader strategy for recruitment and retention of their workforce. I've seen employers take many different approaches here, and some go as far as to not even drug test for marijuana because they're concerned about losing certain talent.
Carefully crafted deal documents are very important in terms of mitigating risk, and these documents should take into account all the local, state, and federal considerations. On the due diligence side, it's really important to get a handle of the regulatory framework that applies. I do a lot of healthcare mergers and acquisitions, and there the regulatory framework is very important, as well as regulatory compliance. So cannabis would be no exception to that.